The cigarette smoke curled upward in the silent office as Marcus held his breath, waiting for his boss to speak. The silence stretched between them like a rubber band about to snap. 5 minutes ago, he'd been a single dad simply asking to leave early for his first date in 3 years. Now, he stood frozen as his boss, Richard, took another long drag and stared at him with unreadable eyes. What Marcus didn't know was that Richard's silence wasn't disapproval, it was recognition of a past that would change both their lives forever. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more emotional real-life stories that will touch your heart. Your support means everything to us. Marcus Jenkins had been raising his daughter Lily alone since his wife died in childbirth 3 years ago. At 34, he'd thrown himself into two things, being the best father possible and working himself to exhaustion at Pinnacle Construction, where he'd risen to become one of their top project managers despite the crushing weight of grief that had become his constant companion. The morning had started like any other. Marcus had dropped 7-year-old Lily off at school, her pigtails bouncing as she ran to meet her friends, backpack nearly as big as she was. "Don't forget, Daddy. Ms. Rivera is letting me stay late for art club today," she'd called over her shoulder. "I won't forget, Princess," he'd promised, watching her disappear into the building. That extra hour of childcare had been the catalyst. For 3 years, Marcus had used every excuse to avoid dating, to avoid moving on. His sister Claire had been relentless, though. "You're not betraying her memory by living, Marcus," Claire had said last Sunday over dinner at her house, while Lily played with her cousins in the backyard. "Emily would want you to be happy." "I am happy," he'd insisted, but the words sounded hollow even to his own ears. Claire had sighed, pulling out her phone. "My friend Olivia from yoga, you remember, the kindergarten teacher I told you about? She's been asking about you for months. I'm setting you up for Friday." No arguments. Before he could protest, she'd sent the text, and his phone had pinged with Olivia's response almost immediately. A simple, "I'd love to." Smiling face that somehow made his heart race with both terror and something he hadn't felt in years, anticipation. Now, standing in Richard's office on Friday afternoon, Marcus was regretting his impulsive decision to ask for 2 hours off. He'd never left early before, had worked countless unpaid overtime hours, had come in on weekends when projects were behind schedule. But asking for this small favor felt monumental. Richard Harmon was a legend in the construction industry, tough, uncompromising, and old school to his core. At 62, he'd built Pinnacle from nothing, working his way up from laying bricks to running one of the most successful construction companies in the state. His salt and pepper hair and weathered face told stories of decades under the sun at building sites. He rarely smiled, never took days off, and expected the same dedication from his employees. So, Richard finally spoke, crushing his cigarette in the ashtray on his desk, despite the company's no-smoking policy that apparently didn't apply to the boss. "You want to leave at 3 instead of 5. For a date?" Marcus swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. My daughter has after-school activities until 4:30 today, so it's the only chance I have. I'll make up the hours over the weekend, of course." Richard leaned back in his chair, studying Marcus with intensity that made him want to squirm. 3 years, you said? "Since my wife passed, yes." Richard nodded slowly, then stood up and walked to the window overlooking the construction site of their latest project, a community center they were building in one of the city's underprivileged neighborhoods. "I was married for 42 years, Richard said, his back to Marcus. "My Catherine died 6 years ago. Cancer." Marcus felt a jolt of surprise. In 3 years of working for Richard, he'd never heard him mention his personal life. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't know." Richard turned, and for a brief moment, Marcus saw something in the older man's eyes that looked startlingly like vulnerability. "We met when I was 20. She was the daughter of a competing contractor, actually." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Her father hated me. Thought I wasn't good enough for his princess. Marcus stood awkwardly, unsure how to respond to this unexpected glimpse into his boss's life. You know what I did? Richard continued. I worked harder. Proved myself. Built this company brick by brick, with Catherine by my side every step of the way. He paused, his gaze distant. But you know what I regret most, Jenkins? What's that, sir? All the times I chose this, he gestured around his office, over her. The anniversaries I missed because of deadlines. The vacations we postponed because of projects. The dinners I was late for because I couldn't tear myself away from work. Richard walked back to his desk and sat down heavily in his chair. And then one day, the doctor gave her 6 months, and suddenly all those deadlines and projects didn't matter anymore. Marcus felt a lump forming in his throat. I understand, sir. No, you don't. Not yet. Richard's voice was gruff. But you will, if you keep going the way you are. He pulled out his desk drawer and removed a photograph, sliding it across the desk. Marcus picked it up. It showed a younger Richard with his arm around a beautiful woman with kind eyes and a radiant smile. They stood in front of what looked like the framework of a new building. That was the day we broke ground on our first major project, Richard said. She brought champagne to the site. Said we had to celebrate the milestones, or what was the point of all the hard work? He took the photo back, looking at it for a long moment before carefully returning it to the drawer. Go on your date, Jenkins. Be there at 3. And don't you dare come in this weekend. Marcus blinked in surprise. Sir? You heard me. Richard's voice returned to its usual gruffness. Now get out of my office. I've got work to do. As Marcus turned to leave, Richard added, and Jenkins? Yes, sir. If she's worth it, don't make her compete with this place. You won't win. Marcus nodded, a weight he hadn't realized he'd been carrying suddenly lifting from his shoulders. Thank you, sir. The rest of the day passed in a blur of anticipation and nervousness. By 2:30, Marcus was checking his appearance in the bathroom mirror for the 3rd time, straightening his tie and wondering if he should have gotten a haircut. His phone buzzed with a text from Claire, stop overthinking it. You look fine. Olivia's excited to meet you. At precisely 3 o'clock, Marcus was walking out of the building when he heard his name called. He turned to see Richard standing by the entrance, lighting another cigarette. Jenkins. Yes, sir. Richard hesitated, then said, there's a little Italian place on Maple Street. Salvatore's. Catherine always said their tiramisu was the best in the city. Marcus smiled. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you. As he drove to meet Olivia at the coffee shop they'd agreed on, Marcus found himself thinking about Richard's words. For 3 years, he'd been existing, not living, going through the motions for Lily's sake but never allowing himself to imagine a future that included his own happiness. The coffee shop was busy when he arrived, but he spotted her immediately, dark curly hair, bright smile, a yellow dress that seemed to capture the sunshine. She waved when she saw him, and the simple gesture made his heart skip. You must be Marcus, she said as he approached. I'd recognize you anywhere from Claire's description. All good things, I hope, he replied, suddenly feeling like a teenager again. The best, she assured him with a smile that reached her eyes. She talks about you and Lily all the time. They ordered coffee and found a quiet corner table. The conversation flowed easily, about her kindergarten class, about Lily's love of art, about books they'd both read and places they wanted to visit. Claire mentioned that you lost your wife, Olivia said gently after a while. I'm so sorry. Marcus nodded, surprised to find that talking about Emily didn't bring the usual sharp pain. It's been 3 years. Lily was just a baby. Sometimes I worry she won't remember her mother at all. That must be so hard, Olivia said, her eyes full of compassion. My dad died when I was 12. It's different, I know, but I understand what it's like to miss someone every day. As they talked, Marcus found himself opening up about things he rarely discussed, his fears about raising Lily alone, the guilt he sometimes felt about moving forward, the loneliness that had become so familiar he hardly noticed it anymore. I think the hardest part, he admitted, is knowing when it's okay to be happy again. Olivia reached across the table and briefly touched his hand. I don't think there's a timeline for grief. You just do the best you can each day. Before he knew it, 2 hours had passed, and it was time to pick up Lily from art club. To his surprise, Olivia asked if she could come along. I'd love to meet her, she said. If that's not too much, too soon. It wasn't too much. When they arrived at the school, Lily came running out with a painting clutched in her hands, her face lighting up when she saw Marcus. Daddy! Look what I made. She stopped short when she noticed Olivia, suddenly shy. Lily, this is my friend Olivia, Marcus said. She's a kindergarten teacher. Olivia crouched down to Lily's level. I love your painting. Is that a dragon? Lily nodded, her shyness melting away. It's a rainbow dragon. Ms. Rivera said we could paint anything we wanted. Rainbow dragons are my absolute favorite, Olivia said seriously, making Lily giggle. As they walked to the car, Lily between them, chattering about her day, Marcus felt something shift inside him, like a door long closed was finally creaking open. That evening, after Olivia had gone home with plans to meet again the following weekend, Marcus sat on the edge of Lily's bed for their nightly story time. Did you have fun with Olivia today, Daddy? Lily asked as he closed the book. Marcus smiled. I did. She's very nice. Lily nodded thoughtfully. I like her. She knows about rainbow dragons. That's very important, Marcus agreed. Mommy would like her too, Lily said matter-of-factly, catching Marcus off guard. You think so? He asked softly. Lily nodded again. Aunt Claire says Mommy would want us to be happy. Are you happy, Daddy? Marcus felt tears prick his eyes as he smoothed his daughter's hair. I'm getting there, Princess. I'm getting there. The following Monday, Marcus arrived at work early, as usual. To his surprise, Richard was already there, standing at the window in his office. Jenkins, he called as Marcus passed. Come in. Marcus entered, noticing that Richard looked different somehow, less stern, perhaps. How was your date? Richard asked bluntly. It was good, Marcus replied, unable to keep the smile from his face. Really good, actually. Richard nodded, satisfaction evident in his expression. Good. That's good. He cleared his throat. I've been thinking over the weekend. About what I said to you. Sir? I meant it, Jenkins. All of it. And I've decided it's time for some changes around here. Over the next few months, Pinnacle Construction underwent a transformation. Richard implemented new policies, flexible working hours for parents, additional vacation time, a strict rule against contacting employees after hours unless it was a genuine emergency. The most surprising change, however, was in Richard himself. He started leaving the office at reasonable hours. He began asking employees about their families. He even showed up at the company picnic, something he'd never done before. And Marcus? His relationship with Olivia blossomed slowly, carefully. She understood his need to put Lily first, to take things one day at a time. She became a regular presence in their lives, helping Lily with art projects, joining them for movie nights, bringing books she thought they might enjoy. 6 months after their first date, as they walked through the park while Lily ran ahead to feed the ducks, Olivia turned to him. I got offered a job, she said. A really good one. Head of the elementary education department at Westfield Academy. Marcus felt his heart sink. That's in Chicago, isn't it? She nodded. It is. But I turned it down. What? Why would you do that? It sounds like an amazing opportunity. Olivia stopped walking, turning to face him. Because my life is here now. With you and Lily. If you'll have me. Marcus stared at her, hardly daring to believe what he was hearing. Are you sure? That's a big sacrifice. It would be a bigger sacrifice to leave, she said simply. I love you, Marcus. Both of you. That evening, after Lily was asleep, Marcus found himself driving to Richard's house. He'd never been there before, but he needed to talk to someone who might understand the swirl of emotions he was feeling. Richard answered the door in reading glasses and a cardigan, looking startled to see Marcus on his doorstep. Jenkins? Is everything all right? I'm sorry to bother you at home, sir. I needed some advice. Richard studied him for a moment, then stepped aside. Come in. And for God's sake, call me Richard when we're not at the office. They sat in Richard's living room, surrounded by photographs of Catherine and what Marcus assumed were their children and grandchildren. She says she loves me, Marcus said after explaining the situation. She turned down an amazing job to stay here. With us. Richard removed his glasses, cleaning them thoughtfully. And how do you feel about her? I love her, Marcus admitted, the words both terrifying and freeing. But I'm scared. What if I'm not ready? What if I mess this up? What if Lily gets hurt? What if, Richard echoed. I spent 6 months asking myself what if, after Catherine died. What if we'd caught it earlier? What if I'd taken her to Italy like she always wanted? What if I'd spent less time at the office and more time with her? He leaned forward, his gaze intense. You know what I learned, Marcus? The what-ifs will kill you faster than anything. They're quicksand. The only question that matters is, will you regret not taking this chance? 2 weeks later, Marcus asked Olivia to marry him. Not with a grand gesture or elaborate plan, but on an ordinary Tuesday evening as they washed dishes together after dinner, Lily already in bed. I want this, he said simply, gesturing between them and around the kitchen. Every day. For the rest of my life. Olivia's eyes filled with tears as she nodded. So do I. They were married the following spring in a small ceremony in Richard's backyard, his wedding gift to them. Lily, serving as flower girl, beamed with pride as she walked down the aisle ahead of Olivia. During the reception, Richard approached Marcus, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. Catherine would have loved this, he said, handing Marcus a glass. She always said a garden wedding was the most romantic. Marcus took the glass, noticing how much younger Richard looked when he smiled. Thank you. For everything. Richard shook his head. No, thank you. You reminded an old man of some important lessons. He raised his glass. To second chances. To second chances, Marcus echoed, watching as Olivia twirled Lily around the dance floor, both of them laughing. Later that night, as they danced under the stars, Olivia rested her head on his shoulder. Happy? She asked. Marcus looked around at the life he never expected to have, his beautiful daughter, now wearing a crown of flowers made by her new stepmother, his friends and family celebrating around them, his boss, now mentor and friend, showing his grandchildren how to properly cut a wedding cake. Yes, he said, holding her closer. Completely. 5 years later, Marcus sat in Richard's office, now his office, since Richard had finally retired, naming Marcus as his successor. On the desk sat 2 photographs, one of Marcus, Olivia, Lily, and their 2-year-old son, and beside it, the photo of Richard and Catherine at their first building site. His phone buzzed with a text from Olivia, "Don't forget, Lily's recital is at 4. We'll save you a seat." Marcus smiled, remembering Richard's words from all those years ago. He shut down his computer, picked up his jacket, and walked out, stopping to tell his assistant he was leaving early.